Theme song. Welcome back to Solid Content, and welcome back to an episode of TasteMaker. Ugh, get rid of that rat. Ugh. Okay, things, as you can see, are going kind of okay, not amazing, at this lonely old chip shop on the highway. We're back playing TasteMaker, and there's a bunch of new updates. There's some new stuff to check out, like all of the cleaning stuff. They've made some changes to the arcades. And now we have some outdoor patio stuff that's going to be really fun to get into with the new fencing tool. Can't wait to build some hedges and stuff like that. That looks great already. Okay, so there's a lot to get done. This little chip shop has also just recently got a loan from its dad for a lot of restaurant doubloons. So there's a lot to do here. A lot to go through. If you'll notice, too, there's new structures, so there's new analytics. If you haven't played the game since the last time I played it, there's some new things to take a look at where you can see this month, last month, like, you know, what you're selling, how much income you make a month, which is not very much right now. Some general warnings, as well as, I really like this, kind of a constant updating slider to show where we're at with our restaurant. So the decor is great. The bladder situation, we have a bathroom, yeah, but that's it. Everything else, not so great. So we need to use this money to improve this restaurant, to build out maybe some patio space, and maybe a second floor patio would be a lot of fun too. I think this will just be a fairly chill build. You know what? Already I take it back. It's not going to be chill at all. I'm going to get crazy with it. We're going to build a big restaurant. I want this restaurant rolling. I kind of want an entrance around back here, and then the stock room here, maybe the kitchen's on the second floor, stairs down to the main floor where we have a bar and everything here, and a patio out here, and then a patio on the second floor as well. That's the main plan. That's what I'm going to get up to today. Hopefully you're excited by that, as I am. Already, yeah, see my... You know, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. I don't need to, worry about that stuff right now. But... The other reason I'm making this video right now and releasing this video right now is because I had a chance to sit down with the creator of this very fun, very wonderful game, who is doing constant updates to it, by the way. So, this is very worth your while if you're going to get this game. Know that it is well supported and it's going in a very fun direction. So grab it on Steam today. But for right now, why don't you sit back, relax, and enjoy this build, while also, hopefully, enjoying my interview with the creator of TasteMaker. Thanks for joining me, Jelle.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I am honored to have you on the channel because I love interviewing game developers, especially of games that I really enjoy. And I had such a blast with TasteMaker. And the views are pretty strong, too, on the channel, so I think, a lot of people are really into this game. So, first of all, thanks for, sharing a copy with me and getting me to investigate the game. So, what was the launch like? You've been developing this game for 2 years, and then that's, 0 day. It's like, all right, it goes live. What does that feel like? Is there, an analytics page where you're just watching the numbers roll in and people playing the game?
Yeah, it was a wild day because I've never been so nervous in my life because I've worked on it for 2 years and really a lot depended on it. So I was extremely nervous and I kind of woke up just shaking and
Oh man, I feel for you.
I didn't check how much it sold for first 8 hours or something because I just didn't have the balls to look really.
Well, and that's the thing. It's always tough because how much it sells doesn't necessarily describe the quality of a game. It's basically how much of a splash it makes when it shows up. But obviously you're hoping that it does really well. And you don't need to tell me, but I assume it's doing okay. I assume it's doing well.
It did really well.
That's awesome.
So the day I released it, I made a Reddit post, and that Reddit post went kind of viral. So that has really helped a lot, and the launch really exceeded all my expectations.
Yes. So, that's so good to hear. That's awesome. I just love that, and I just feel so happy for you because 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears on this thing.
Yeah.
And you're good to go. So let's go back to the start. What was, not the start of the interview, but the what was the start of the game? What were you? And I assume is it in Unity?
Yeah.
So you must have been learning Unity a little bit, and then you kind of settled on this as your vision. Like, how did it start?
Yeah, so I've been making games for like a really long time.
Oh yeah.
So I've been doing it for like 10 years ago. I started with making little games in GameMaker. So I've always kind of tried to search for an idea that I thought was like worthy of putting like years of time into.
Yeah.
And I started getting interested in learning how to cook.
Okay.
And that kind of drew me into this whole world of cooking. Like, there are a lot of awesome YouTube videos of people cooking, and yeah, I will put this.
That makes sense to me. So there's it's like, cooking videos, and cooking is very popular on YouTube.
Yeah, it's like this entire subculture.
Yeah.
And I didn't really find any games that tapped into that. So that's why I thought maybe I can do a game about that. And then for school, I got an assignment to create like a little AI that needed pathfinding and some decision making. So I thought maybe I can do a little restaurant for that assignment. And that's kind of how it got started.
Oh, that's great. So it was basically like an assignment in a way. You started like the first, what would you call that? Like the tech test or something? Like, here's how the people would move.
Yeah, so the original vision was not really to make like a big game right from the start.
Yeah.
So first of all, I just tried to do the assignment, and I thought it would just be fun to do a little restaurant as a team. But then it turned out to be just really fun to work on, and people I showed it were really enthusiastic about it. So then I decided to just continue working on it.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It kind of just grew and grew from that.
So what was the original, like the first sort of basic idea? Just sort of like a small restaurant? Like, was it always a restaurant builder from the beginning, or was it more management based? And then did it evolve much from your original idea?
So first it was more like a kind of tech demo where you could just place down some chairs.
The pathfinding.
And, it was basically about the pathfinding, and saying a tech demo kind of makes it sound like more than it is, because it was really just a school assignment for like a simple pathfinding algorithm. So initially my idea was to do something like The Sims, because obviously The Sims was like a big inspiration.
Totally.
So at first I had where you could select the waiters, and you had to give them assignments like manually. So you had to say you go bring this plate to this guest. And I thought that would be fun, but it turned out to just be really tedious and so I just took that out completely eventually. And then I just went with a more traditional tycoon approach, I guess.
Kind of had this, so like have them like auto pick their tasks, I suppose.
Yeah, and then later on, or I guess I did this quite early on, is that I added a priority. So you had some kind of indirect control of what they would do first. So you had still some level of control, but not like really having to manually say everything they got to do.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be tough.
Yeah.
Because there's that game like Overcooked, where you have to run around actually cooking all the dishes. Very different game. But yeah, I could see where from your perspective you're like, oh well, what is the fun part? Like, is the fun part managing how to get the stuff out to the customers, or is the fun part like macro level, like managing the whole restaurant? And so you had to find that out.
At first I thought that I could just combine the two, like do some kind of Overcooked and then combine it with The Sims or some more traditional tycoon game.
Yeah.
It sounded like a good idea, but I just couldn't really make it work. And I tried for quite a long time to sort of make it work. But I just couldn't figure it out how to do it. So eventually I just removed it entirely.
And that's actually a good question, or a good point that you brought up, because you're like, I couldn't figure out how to make it work, so I removed it entirely. And it's like, I think I'm getting an idea as to how you design stuff. I was looking at your website. I think it's your website, I hope. And
probably.
Yeah, and it was talking
portfolio
about
website.
Yeah, and you had some what were they called? Prototypes there. And one game that I found, or like prototype that I thought was kind of interesting, was the environment, in simulator, the ecosystem sim.
Oh yeah.
And I've got a note here that says like you included a reason why you stopped making it. And it was because you couldn't figure out how to make the gameplay fun. And I think that's kind of a super strength for a creative person of any stripe, but definitely a game maker, because the sunk cost fallacy is like, oh, I've made this game, I've got this far in the game, in designing this game, I better figure it out so I can just release it. But whereas you were like, you know what, I can't figure out how to make it fun. Like, I'm gonna put this on the shelf.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to just remove it or just, I guess, stop. But that's also something that's kind of hard to figure out sometimes, when is something just a bad idea and when do you need to work on it more to try to make it work.
I'm wondering with this ecosystem sim, because it, like, at least the one image I can see looks like something I would enjoy playing. What was it that made in that game that were the gameplay where you were like, oh, this isn't fun? And what was it in TasteMaker where you're like, here we go, this is fun? I guess there's a level of, is it actually like you had fun playing it?
Yeah, and I also tested out with friends,
right,
family, and you can kind of read their reaction to if there's something there. Like, it's different when and even just testing it myself, where you can already tell like there's just nothing here to polish.
Nothing
sometimes
here to
it's
polish.
also a bit of an intuition, I guess. Like, sometimes you can just feel it when there's just something there, but it's not quite polished yet, so you have to work on it more. And sometimes there's just nothing there, so there's also nothing to polish.
Yeah, you can't polish a turd at the end of the day, because it's just more turd all the way down.
Yeah, so with the ecosystem game, you could just place down animals, and I just couldn't figure out any gameplay at all. So it wasn't like I had gameplay that wasn't fun necessarily. Maybe it was more like I just from the start I couldn't figure out anything that I thought would be fun. Right.
So this one, so it's more of a prototype. It was more of like you were just learning and experimenting, and kind of like when you approach a game design, are you kind of like, oh, I wonder if it's almost like you're an explorer. Like, I wonder if there's anything fun in this, and then you design some stuff and tinker a little bit?
Yeah, I guess. Well, if I start with an idea, I always like really believe that it will be fun.
Yeah.
And then eventually you come to the painful realization that it actually isn't. And then So at the start, I'm always very optimistic about it, and sometimes maybe a little too optimistic.
Well, you have to be creative. I think you have to have like faith in the project.
I guess so.
So what about with TasteMaker? Were there any moments where you're like, there's nothing here, or not necessarily like full on roadblocks, but like what were the challenges? Like, what was one of the early ones when you're like, oh, this is going to be tough?
Yeah, so the biggest one was where I discovered that the micromanagement, where you have to assign every single little action that the waiters would do. The moment that I found out that wouldn't work, that was kind of tough, because then I had to figure out like, okay, in what new direction will I take the game from here then?
Right. And then, so you decided to automate that.
Yeah, so, but other than that, there weren't really any huge roadblocks where I almost gave up. But a lot of just little things, also little technical things that just took a long time. And some of the people that watch my channel, so not myself, but some people that watch the channel are game designers, or at least some level of coder. So, if you want to get in the weeds, feel free to get into the details. But I'm wondering, like, but I won't understand what you're saying, so you could just say whatever you want. But what I'm wondering is, like, when you were making the game, was there anything that was like maybe with the pathfinding, but that was kind of like one of the earlier pieces of tech that went into the game. That was actually quite easy, because there are a lot of tutorials on it. So that's also something where certain topics there are a lot of tutorials for, and it might be tough to figure out on your own, but you don't have to figure it out on your own. But the really hard things are things that are really specific to your game. So you're like all by yourself when trying to fix it. You can't go to the internet, and that's often the most tough problems for me.
And I guess that's probably because, like, at the end of the day, it's your game. So you've made... Because, like, games are meant to be problems to solve. So you've made a bunch of problems that you're trying to solve in the game.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be a tutorial video on how to make your own game.
No.
So, like, was one of the big... Like, I guess if... Again, I'm just guessing because I'm not a coder. But there's a part of me that's like, I bet it was tricky to work out the balance between, like... customers being attracted to come into the restaurant and like how much you can sell fries for versus how much the ingredients are.
That's still right now one of the most like tricky issues.
Really? Okay.
Because like 1 week before the even one day before the release, I play tested the game with a friend. And he suggested to me like people have to go to the toilet way too often. So what I did was I lowered like their like how quickly their bladder fills up, so how often they have to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
That might seem like a small change, but that turned out to just really change all the balance in the game, because now because they didn't have to go to the toilet a lot. They stayed shorter in the restaurant. So you could serve more people in the same amount of time. So you could make a lot more money in the same amount of time.
Oh, which then makes it almost too easy.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I think it was good, because 1 day before the release, the game was like really hard and a lot of people got like stuck. So in that case, it turned out good, but it kind of goes to show how one little change in one system can really affect the entire gameplay in like really unexpected ways.
Oh my god, that's so fascinating. I never thought that the toilet, like having to go to the bathroom, would be such a game changer. Like literally. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Really like you had like 100 coins a month, like more profit like every time, just because they didn't go to the toilet as often. It's hard to predict those kind of changes. Like, if I change this, then all this will happen. And sometimes it also happens in a negative way. So another example is where I kind of like the starting area that you get is quite small. So I kind of changed the code of how that worked, and that made it slightly bigger. And it wasn't supposed to get bigger, but I thought like whatever, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
But then what people did was they made their starting restaurant a lot bigger. And they ran out of money at the start of the game often. So that turned out to be a really big problem. But I never thought that it would be a big problem. So it's often kind of hard. Really small little changes can really affect the game a lot.
Right. Because from your perspective, you're thinking like, oh, well, they'll still like inherently not make a big restaurant and not and be able to figure out that they need to conserve their money. But on the player side, you have too many players just like, you know, not being able to figure it out, not being able to see like how small they need to make the restaurant.
Yeah, and it's also hard because I know the game like inside and out.
Yeah, so right.
It's really sort of difficult sometimes to estimate how players will react to certain changes and how new players will play the game. So that's it's always a struggle to find new people that have never played the game and then get footage of their first time playing.
Of course. I've said it before on my channel that I'm not like the greatest player of games in the world. I'm not like very good at like min-maxing, like really, you know, like really dialing in the how I play. I like to decorate and I like to like kind of like set things up as realistically as possible, which always isn't the most efficient. I'm just wondering, like, of the people that are playing it on YouTube, like, are there any where you're just sitting on the other end and you're like, you're not supposed to put that there?
Yeah, that's constantly that's like that's why like playtesting can often be so frustrating. But
totally,
it's also very important to do, of course.
Yeah, because like you said, you know the game in and out, so you would know every move to make and where to put everything. But other players, like, I kind of think I always block a lot of my path with the bar because I like the staff door being behind the bar, but then they have to come out and like walk all the way around the counter to get to customers.
Yeah. So that's also one thing that's really kind of subtle. Like, the walking distance of the waiters has like a extremely big impact on your profitability. But
Right.
a lot of people kind of don't pay attention to that, and then they don't know why their restaurant is not profitable. So that's kind of something I'm struggling with right now. Like, how am I gonna solve that?
So what's the struggle though? Because like, isn't that like, obviously you want that to be balanced, but are you thinking that the walking distance is too far right now or like too punishing to get to some tables?
It just has like an extremely big impact, and that also means that creating like really big restaurants, they inherently have like big walking distances. So the bigger your restaurant gets, the harder it is to be profitable. And a lot of people, I guess, expect that big restaurants are more profitable. So that's almost never the case right now in the game. And I would like that to be the case a little bit more. Although it's also not entirely realistic, I guess, that big restaurants are always profitable, because that's also not the case. But you should be able to make really big, extremely profitable restaurants, and right now that's just really hard.
Well, maybe we could go into the phase of the interview where I get some tips on how to play, because I have Yella, I have an admission for you. If I'm being honest, a lot of people on the channel were like, okay, we love the sandbox, but like play the scenarios. And I was like, okay, I'll make some more videos and I'll play the scenarios. And the first one, not a problem for me. Like, I'm a pro player, no big deal. I sold a million fries. It's all good. The second scenario is the one where I'm like, okay, I'll make a video out of the second scenario. And the reason I haven't put it out yet is because I'm not good enough. I can't beat it. And what I'm wondering, and I think you're right, like, so what I did was, the biggest challenge with the second scenario, in my opinion, is build space. Like, you can't really build wide. You have to build tall. And so I think I made it to the second phase. Like, in the current build of the game, you have to make $400 of profit, and then to get the third challenge, like the third gold medal, it's or the third gold star, it's like 800, twice the profit. So I think I got to 400 with the small shape of the restaurant, and only like, I don't even know, like 10 something seats. Basically just trying to max out that little space. Then I expanded. I added a second floor and like one new staff member. But now my profits went from close to 400 down to like 150 a month. And I think it's because they have to like walk all the way upstairs. So I guess my question to you is, what am I doing wrong?
So I guess that could be like the walking distance issue, that if they have to go upstairs, so first have to go to the start of the stairs downstairs, like that might be
at the bottom, right?
That might be like a really big walking distance, and then go from the top of the stairs to the table. That might also be a big distance, and that together might really slow the waiters down. Yeah. So it could be one issue, and kind of the trick in the second, and I guess in all the scenarios. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Is to raise the prices. So I don't know if you've tried that, but also something that's not really clear maybe is that the happiness of the people is like directly tied to the spawn rate. So how many people come in your restaurant.
Okay.
So what kind of the trick is to really make them very happy. Yeah. And then charge as much as possible. So really max out the decoration and max out everything that's on the menu. So 4 items on the menu maximizes their happiness for menu variety.
Oh, so, 4 items. Okay, that's good to know.
So the best thing is to have like 4 and not more than 4, because then you're adding like extra complexity to your restaurant, which doesn't really pay off.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, because in my playthrough, my 3 episodes, I added everything to the menu.
Yeah. So that's not the most efficient thing to do.
Yeah, like I guess so your tip is like don't make a Denny's, like make a focused restaurant. Although I guess I don't know if you have Denny's in the Netherlands.
No.
It's basically just like a kitschy American like breakfast place, but their menu is like 7 pages long, and it's like 6 different types of pancakes, and then like a burger, sandwiches, beef dip. Like it's just like they have such a wide menu.
Yeah.
And then everything's like $10 or something. Like it's just so you're like, I'm not sure how they're making it or what's in this food, but I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah.
The joke is always that's where we go, like at 2 a.m. Like if you're drunk and you're partying, like that's what you end up. Right. You end up at Denny's.
Yeah.
So you're saying like make a specialized restaurant.
Yeah.
Try to pick what you want in your restaurant.
Yeah, because it doesn't pay off to have like more than 4, and I guess that I should raise that as I add more dishes to the game.
Oh, you're gonna add more dishes to the game.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about with the tips is a lot of people commented on the channel, like if you lower the prices, more people come in. Is that true, or is that just tied to their happiness? Okay.
Yeah. Spawn rate is really determined by price and by happiness.
Okay.
And really, if you're trying to make a lot of profit, you should kind of, especially when you only have a small space, the best way to get a lot of profit is just to have high prices. And then to still make sure that you always have enough people in your restaurant, you should then really try to maximize happiness.
So really raising, I was thinking about that because if you have low prices, like sure, you'll get lots of customers in, but now each staff member is doing a bunch of work for less payout. So their work is less efficient in the game. Yeah. They're basically like making less money for you with the same amount of running around.
Yeah, so I guess that could work if you have unlimited space, like having low prices and then serving a lot of customers. But with the limited space, that's just not really an option. So.
I was thinking, like in that second scenario, and if it's spoilers, like you don't have to tell me how you beat it, but like I was thinking in the second scenario of maybe even like you get the game going, you save up a bunch of money with the tiny restaurant, build the second floor, and then like make the kitchen on the second floor, and then have a bathroom and all the tables on the first floor, and then you could even add a third floor on top, so the kitchen's right in the middle.
No, you can't yet add more than 2 floors.
Oh, okay.
But it is a good idea to have the kitchen and maybe even the toilet on one floor, because the kitchen and the toilet have like really bad decoration.
Right.
So if you then have all the tables on the top floor, for example, then you can really optimize the decoration only on the top floor, and you don't have to worry about the decoration on the bottom floor because guests aren't really sitting there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's how I did it.
That's how you do. Okay, so you like save up a bit of money with the first initial design, then build a second floor, have the customers like basically walk in the front door and go straight up the stairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then you could have staff stairs, which I put in a lot. And so then they like the staff can access like a couple different sides of the restaurant.
Yeah, that might work, but you also like the stairs take up a lot of space. So
yeah, that's true.
Maybe it's not entirely worth it to have like two stairs, but yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't tried that.
It's so funny. It's so funny you say that because in my gameplay video, by the third episode where I kind of finished, I made a little cabaret upstairs. So there's like a bar and a couple of tables spread out and like a little stage. Yeah. I mean, it's not functional, but it looks nice. But by the time I had made that, I think I had 3 staircases. So it's just so funny hearing you say like, don't do that. That'd be stupid to add more than 1 staircase.
Yeah, well, it might work if you have unlimited space, but in a scenario where you have like really limited space, like every little grid cell like counts.
Yeah, that's a good point, and also the sign of a very good game. If I may pay you that compliment. No, because it's like, well, because it's true though, right? It's like you're like, oh, I need exactly this amount of space. I cannot use more. It'll cause problems, or I can't. Like I need to think very smart about like how I order the tables. And one thing I like about that, like, let's say if we compare this to something like Academia, like School Simulator, those top-down ones, where the pathing is quite easy. The only thing that the the spawn people in those games can't go past our doors and walls, but they can walk right over all the chairs and tables. So now, like, the layout, like the pathfinding layout isn't as important. But with your game, there's like an element of Tetris almost, where you're like, how many chairs and tables can I get in? And I find that part really engaging.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. And it's also, layout is very important to also like minimize the walking distances. And also, one thing that's kind of subtle is that if the guests have like really long walking distances, they leave behind a lot more dirt on the floor. So your employees will be spending way more time cleaning. And
right. I feel selfish because obviously I want to interview so that everybody gets a chance to like hear about the game, but there is a part of me that's like, I need more tips. But what else? What's on the roadmap? Or are you kind of just doing what you feel in the moment, or do you have like a specific plan for what's coming up in the game?
So I released like a little like mind map with the ideas, but the general direction is like, first of all, just add more stuff, like add more options to decorate your restaurant, and so everyone can make their own unique restaurant. Because right now, a lot of the restaurants just look alike because the options just aren't really there to really customize the restaurant. Yeah, I want to add more content on that side, and just more dishes, of course. And that's one I'm still trying to figure out, how I can add dishes in a way that really adds value to the game, because I feel that just adding more dishes in itself just doesn't necessarily make the game more fun. So I have to kind of figure out a way that it actually new dishes actually add something to the game.
There has to be either a challenge or like a bonus that you get for it.
Something unique. Like if I add just like 20 types of bread or something, like I'm not sure how that would make the game better. But a lot of people are asking like for more dishes, which is perfectly like understandable. Like I also want to have more dishes, but I kind of have to figure out a way to actually make it fun and add value to the game.
Yeah, because otherwise you could just add hundreds of things, and it's like, oh, you just need this ingredient and this ingredient. You get this item, this ingredient, and then all you're doing is just sitting there permutating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, kind of.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit Italian, so obviously I wanted to see some more like variety in the pasta dishes. I wanted to see some carbonaras. I want to see some. No, but you know what I was wondering is like, would you ever add something like ingredient quality? So it's like, oh, I can get these ingredients from like Walmart. I can get Walmart steak, or I can get like premium steak.
So that's an idea that I really want to do, like ingredient quality, and then also like dish quality, so the quality of the food itself. And I'm not sure exactly how I will implement that. So what I'm thinking right now is just that you order the ingredients and that they start off with like 100% quality, and that it just goes down over time, and that they can kind of spoil.
Right, so you got to move fast, and you have to order correctly.
You can't just stack up a whole bunch of ingredients and just leave it there, because then it will just spoil.
Right.
But that also touches on like another issue where on the one hand I want to add a lot more content, but on the other hand I also don't want to make the game like really complicated, because I personally don't really enjoy the type of management games where you spend most of your time looking at spreadsheets and like Excel sheet.
Right.
So I don't really want it to become like that type of game. So I also have to figure out how to add things without making the game really complicated and less accessible.
Yeah, I get that. And I think what I liked about you saying like The Sims was kind of an inspiration for it in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What I like about that is like The Sims figured out a really good way of rewarding the player for creativity, like rewarding the player for just designing what they wanted, rather than like funneling everybody towards like a specific way to play. Like, oh, you've got to get this bed and this computer and get this job on day 2, and you'll have $1 million by day 7 or something like that. It's like, no, it's like they figured out a way to make it general enough that the thing that it opens up in the player is like, oh, well, maybe I want to make a Mexican restaurant, or I want to make just a chip shop, or like, and that's what I like about, where TasteMaker is headed, is that it definitely does seem to reward, like it's tough. You need to be careful with how you do your layouts, but at the same time, it still rewards you well enough for like at least messing around with it a little bit and having fun, like designing something.
So that's also something I really want to like add once I figure out how to do the dishes in a unique way. Yeah, is where you have like different styles of cooking, like Mexican, Italian,
right,
and then also have like decoration items to go with those themes, I guess.
And would there be bonuses too? So it's like, why is this like restaurant so looks so Mexican, and then I'm getting served Italian food?
Well, I don't think that would necessarily be a good idea, because then I would really restrict the player and what they can do. So
that's true.
I guess some players would have a lot of fun making a Mexican-looking Italian restaurant, and I don't want to punish the people who enjoy making that.
That's true. Yeah. You still have to. It still has to be open concept enough.
So like Roller Coaster and The Sims, like those types of games are really like my biggest inspiration. Like,
perfect.
Where you can spend a lot of time decorating, but also have like a little management side to it.
Now that you mention it, the roller coaster games are a great example, because it's similar, right? You're trying to attract the guests, whereas The Sims is like you just have a person you're in charge of. But with roller coaster, when any of those tycoons, you're trying to attract guests, you're trying to maintain their happiness, but it's also like super creative. And sometimes you try to make like a roller coaster that kills people. Are you gonna? Is that gonna be a thing you can do? Like, can I take away the doors? Like, make a restaurant that never lets customers leave or something?
Yeah, you can already do that. I'm not sure.
Oh, you can?
You've already found it out, but if you actually do that and just wait a little while, the guests will actually start like taking a dump in your restaurant.
No way.
On the floor.
Even if there's a bathroom? They're just like, no, I'm mad.
No. There can't be a bathroom. So the bathroom has to be like unreachable or just non-existent.
They just start dumping on the floor.
Yeah. So that's
so funny.
My game also became like R-rated for that reason, which was kind of a bummer, but
oh, that's funny. I think I enjoyed discovering that. And actually, there's another compliment for you, is the attention to detail I really like, because the like going over, like scrolling over the bathroom and be like, oh, the bathroom's really dirty, and you look and there's all these little turds floating in the toilet.
yeah.
And I just love thinking about you, like one day, maybe even 2 full days on your task list is like, I gotta animate these poos.
Yeah, so I really wanted to have clear feedback on when the toilet is dirty, and I guess I just went all out, like just adding a lot of poop to it, and it's
and now, but that also means
clear that it's
that also means that you had to code when they poo themselves in the restaurant, though. Like, at what point did they? You had to work. You had to work on making that. Is there an animation? I haven't seen them do it yet. Do they like squat down?
Yeah, they just squat down, and there's like a little animation of poop falling out and a little splash on the ground. It was like quite elaborate.
That's so funny.
That was actually also another thing where I didn't really have a marketing budget at all, so I had to kind of come up with ideas to how can I attract some attention to the game.
Right,
so
that
was one way that I got some attention for the game, was adding that poop mechanic, and then I made like a GIF of it and posted it on Reddit, and that got like a huge attention. So that was the main reason I added that poop mechanic, but that also means that I spent way too much time on it actually. So it's like quite elaborate how I did it. And also the names of some of the scripts in the game are just really weird and just disgusting because of
it. That's so funny. So buried deep within the game's code are some like really disgusting pieces of tech.
Yeah.
Hey, how long did it take to get the animation, like the sort of physics right? When you like, one of my favorite things in the game is when you move the chair that somebody's sitting in. They don't just like most games would have them just like stand up and like walk away, but your characters like fall over, and they're like bummed that their chair disappeared. So like how hard was that to get going?
Yeah, that was like really frustrating and stressful to add, because I added that like a month before the release, and it just introduced like all kinds of bugs of people going to the toilet, and then you delete the chair and they come back and they just sit on air, like because the chair was gone, and all kinds of bugs like that. There were a lot of like edge cases of where it went wrong. So that really took a lot of time and a lot of frustration, caused a lot of frustration, but eventually I got it to work.
But I mean, I like that, because that is like, you're just so dedicated. You're like, no, I have to get, like, I know this is going to be an enjoyable part of the game, or like enjoyable part of the experience, because it makes it feel like the simulation is real. You know, it gives you that extra level of realism.
Yeah,
but
and also it was kind of out of necessity, because you can't really close the restaurant right now, and it was really hard to move around stuff before I had that, because you had to constantly wait until someone was gone before you could move the chair.
Yeah.
And then when they were gone, immediately someone else would come in and go sit there. So you could never really move the chair. So I kind of thought that would be a sort of fun workaround for that problem.
But I mean, here's what I'm talking about. Like like any other game, even Sims, which is like AAA, like so many staff, you know, so many departments working on this game. Even that, if you take the chair away, they just kind of spawn standing up, or like the animation just like switches to them standing up.
Yeah.
But you went the extra mile. You're like, no, they're gonna fall out onto their butts.
Yeah,
get up.
I just thought that it would kind of be funny detail to add.
And I think that's like for customer, you know, for people that play games and customers of video games, like especially tycoon games, if they notice that kind of stuff happening, I think it gives them, or at least for me it does, it gives you confidence in the early access, because you're like, oh, this game has little details like that, which to me means that the developer of the game takes it seriously and is a completionist. They're like, oh, this person's probably going to keep working on this game.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because there's some games that I play where it's like, oh, like there's a feature that is just I don't know what you'd call it in video game design, like vaporware. So it's like there's a feature in the game where you can have a fighting tournament, but it like doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, so they just tossed in the veneer of it and the buttons, but there's no response. And to me, it's like, okay, well, just put it in the game when it's ready. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it just makes me less confident that the early access is going to get the updates that make it functional. And I'm not as excited to look forward to the next update.
I'm not sure if there are still things like that in TasteMaker left, because there are a lot of things I did remove, like systems that I half implemented and then removed. So in the code, there's still a lot of that, like things that kind of got half implemented and then
not that I could tell. I mean, from the player's experience, it seemed pretty. I'm trying to think. What is there? Yeah, what is a system that's like? Unless you don't want to talk about it. And what is a system that is like?
So for example, I guess I kind of reintroduced it with reviews, but at first you could click on individual guests and like read what they were thinking, like in Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Right. Yeah,
and that's something that I kind of scrapped, because I will probably reintroduce it, but it just wasn't really working right. So
that's
I
fair.
Figured that I'm just gonna remove it for the time being until I have time to really add it properly, like implement it properly, instead of just doing it like half. And also something else that I want to reintroduce is settings for the kitchen equipment. So at first, actually, I got the entire like food quality feature. I already had that implemented in previous versions of the game. So you could set like the speed of the mixer and the temperature of the oven, and that would like influence the quality of the pizza and other food.
And the speed, I assume.
Yeah, and
amazing.
That's just something I want to reintroduce, but also that got removed for the time being because it just didn't really fit with the new mechanics. So
Right.
I have to figure out a way to reintroduce that in a way that works with the rest of the game.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it sounds like you still have a lot of plans or stuff that's almost ready to go, and some stuff that you're working on right now. Toss me that link to that roadmap you were saying, because then I'll make sure to put that in the description of the video.
All right.
So people can see that, because that sounds awesome, and I'm excited to see like in your mind, like how often do you think you're going to be wanting to update? You're doing like an update once a month, or
no?
What are you targeting?
Right now I'm doing every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
So
Every 2 weeks, there's something new to look forward to in TasteMaker.
Yeah.
I think the first update you did added staff doors, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that was
Staff
sweet.
doors and like little like settings for your storage racks, so you can exclude certain ingredients from certain storage racks.
See, it's funny because it's like, oh, that makes gameplay more efficient for some, but for me, me, it's like, oh, that means I'm going to make a wine cellar. It's not going to be efficient at all.
Yeah. And the last update I added like colors for the different items, so you can actually, at first the chairs and everything was like red, but now
great.
You can select colors for items that contain color. So it doesn't work for kitchen equipment because those are like all gray.
Industrial.
But, but items that have like really clear colors in them, you can change the color. So.
Well, that's amazing, and I'm thinking I've probably asked you everything that I can really ask about it. I would love to keep going. I could go on forever because I'm also just so interested in like what's it like to launch a game into early access on Steam. But I've also taken up all of your time so far, your entire evening even. So
for me, it's no problem. So if
that's great.
If you want to go on, we can. For me, I have enough time.
Well, you know what I think would be, because like already this video is going to be like 65 hours long. So maybe what we should do is I can check in with you like later on down the line, a couple of updates later or something. We can see like how's the game going, or like how's the early access
that's fine.
life. Because I think it'd be fun to do an interview with even a couple of devs about what is early access mean to them. And
that's interesting,
what are the expectations? Because it seems all over the place. Like sometimes people release, really busted games into early access.
It's also kind of tough from like a developer standpoint. Like, what do people expect from early access?
Yeah, totally. And at some point you've got to start making money for it. So like otherwise you can't keep doing it. So there's like this balance that you have to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me wrap it up with this last question then, which is just from a person who is making tycoon games. Are there any tycoon games that you particularly love? Obviously, Roller Coaster Tycoon and The Sims. I don't know if you can call The Sims a tycoon game. It's more like a sim. I don't know. But anything recently that you've discovered? Any other developers that that I should be looking at that you should shout out?
Well, I've recently just started playing RimWorld.
Oh yeah.
I never really played that before, and I also bought a book from the designer of RimWorld, which I'm also reading. So it's kind of fun to play the game and also read the book.
I didn't know that the person made a book. That's awesome.
Yeah, they made a book about like how to design games. So it's really interesting to see like the decisions that they make.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so you've just started playing RimWorld, so I guess I'll probably never hear from you again. That is a beast of a game. I love that game.
Yeah, it's quite fun. Yeah.
Well, Jelle, I'm honored. Like I said before, I'm honored to have been able to sit down with you and talk to you about TasteMaker. I love talking to the artists about the art. There's something about the small team that just fascinate me. It's something that I wish I had the abilities for, but I'm glad you do.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, there you have it, folks. There is the restaurant that was in my mind throughout that whole interview. It looks really nice. I like the balconies that were added. I think that's awesome. I like the cleaning supplies, like the vacuum cleaner and the brooms. That's good to have around. It's a very hustly, bustly restaurant, but I think I have a lot of work to do. I'm making good profit, but my reviews aren't very good. And hygiene's good. Waiting time is getting better. Menu variety, everyone's happy with that. So I should probably lower the price, and I can do that because I'm making enough money now. So I should be able to do that. But yeah, maybe this restaurant could be like a scenario where you're like, it's a decent restaurant, but there's some structural problems with it. Please fix it. Again, not very efficient. I think the delivery guy comes through here and up these stairs rather than like going down this back hallway. I should have put fridges down here, I suppose. One thing I could do is expand the wall out this side, but then it's like a little less symmetrical. And then get a little more storage room, maybe some fridges down here. Having the storage and the kitchen on different floors is probably not very smart. But hey, everything's getting dealt with. It's a nice looking restaurant. Love the umbrellas. Love the color picking. I didn't do as much of it as I should have, but I kind of like the look down here anyway. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that interview to be some truly solid content. And we will see you all in the next video of whatever it is that I play.